Okay, we're gonna have a bunch more people signing on. I'm sure let's just wait another minute.
Okay,
I
sounds
still
great.
just see people signing on, and then we'll get started.
Okay. I can't believe it's the holiday season.
I know. And the weather is starting to feel like it already,
I know,
especially
it
here,
was
especially
so
here in New
cold.
York.
Well, yeah, oh my gosh, I'm in Atlanta and I feel like it's freezing, so I can't
Yeah, I
imagine.
heard Atlanta was like even colder than New York the other day, so
It was freezing, like in the
pretty
30s when I
crazy.
was dropping the kids off at
Wow,
school.
that's cold.
I
That's
was
colder
not.
than New York right now.
Well, because we went from 70 degrees to
I
30, and
know.
I was like,
Yeah,
this is there was no
no one's
fall.
prepared for that. Yes, no one's
No,
prepared
it
for that.
was summer to winter, as it normally
Exactly.
is.
And oh, exactly. It's always like that. We're always
Yep.
expecting fall and it never comes.
No.
Anyways, I think we will go ahead and start.
All right.
So welcome everybody. Tonight's topic is heart healthy holiday season. So as Julie and I were just speaking about, we can't believe the holidays are really around the corner, right? Thanksgiving is ready in like a week and a half or less at this point.
Yep.
And, the weather's starting to change and the season, all the holiday seasons and the decorations are starting to go up. And it's really exciting. It's a really exciting time. And as I actually mentioned in our last webinar where we spoke about Halloween, this year is going to be, I think, amazing. And everyone's really in full swing because the last 2 years, I think people were, not celebrating as they normally do. And it seems like, most people are back and ready to be back and better than ever. So it's really exciting. It's nice. It's a really nice time of the year. Obviously, there's a lot of food and meals that come up in the next few months as we go to the holidays. We have Thanksgiving, we have Christmas, we have New Year's, Hanukkah is coming up. So we have so many holidays coming up, so much food, and it can be really difficult to navigate that. So really what I'm here today to do is to talk about, ways to kind of navigate that, um, and the best way to do that. But first, before we do start, I really do want to mention that nothing should ever be restricted, especially during holiday time. I think it's a really important thing to understand because it's really easy to kind of feel like we're in this normal, we're in this normal routine and we have normal eating habits. And then the holidays come and we get a little bit scared, but we shouldn't restrict ourselves. We should enjoy ourselves. We should spend the time with our family and enjoy it with our families. And that includes, delicious food. So with that being
100%.
said, I will now start tonight's webinar. So we have a bunch of new people on tonight. So welcome everybody. I will quickly introduce what we'll talk about tonight, fair meals, myself, Julie, and then we'll get the show on the road. So we're going to learn about, fair meals, myself, Julie, what is heart healthy, what does heart healthy nutrition look like, and as usual, I like to end in some healthier holiday recipes. So Fair Meals is a free online platform offering families healthy, simple, and affordable meal solutions. So our mission is to empower families with the nutrition education, step-by-step recipes, and budget planning to make meals healthy, easy, and affordable. Our vision is to combat America's chronic disease crisis by making healthy food an option for every family. Unfortunately, we're seeing chronic diseases in much younger populations now than we've really ever seen. And a lot of that has to do with the diet, the American diet. I'm going to even just call that out. A lot of processed food, a lot of fast food. And these foods are really creating an issue in terms of chronic diseases and chronic illnesses and really in an earlier age. So it's really important for everybody to know that healthy food is and should and can be an option for everybody. And it's an option for every family. So a little bit about myself. So I founded Fair Meals to really offer nutritional guidance and easy recipes that empower families to eat well on a budget. So we are now a 501c3 status nonprofit organization. We really focus on going out. We have, many partner organizations. We provide nutrition education, workshops, lectures to these different organizations, and on all areas of nutrition. So I am a registered dietitian. I also received my master's of science in nutrition and dietetics from NYU. I'm also a mom to two little boys and a wife, and I know how difficult it can be to provide healthy meals for my family that are also convenient and affordable, and also that they will eat. So with this resource, I help to really help families from all walks of life and not just in one specific population. So Julie, who is our moderator tonight. So Julie, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure.
Julie is a content creator based in Atlanta, Georgia, and best known for her Instagram account, Spilled Milk Mama. Julie's videos went viral following the tragic and sudden death of her husband, Charles, in 2021. As a young widow with two small children, Julie is using her platform to build community. She spent a decade working in education and been featured by NBC's Today Show, Fox 5 Atlanta, 9 News in Australia, and on several top podcasts. Julie has worked on brand partnerships and collaborations with companies like Spanx, Wheezy Towels, and Third Love, all companies that I love. So without further ado, Julie, thank you for being here. And
thank you for having me. This is just one of my favorite topics to begin with. I grew up with a super healthy family. My mom always cooked meals for us every single night. We rarely ate out. And it's just such an important thing. I could talk about it all day. And I think especially when you have young kids, when you have a family, to try to figure out what to feed them every single day. You're like, wait, I have to do this again, is an important topic because I think people get in a rut and so they start eating out or what it may be. And, in my personal case, grief and losing my husband, cooking is a whole different dynamic now. So it's so nice to have a resource where we can have something easy to go to, easy to make, easy in general, low cost. That's so important for so many families. So I think this could be great. And I love being a part of it. And I'm so excited.
Yeah. So thank you. And I guess now we're gonna get started with tonight's presentation. So learning about heart health. And actually, I just wanted to go back to one thing you said before we continue, just because it became, it's something that just popped in my head. As you mentioned, cooking has become something, a completely different experience for you, after the death of your husband. And
Right.
also being that you have two little kids, something that Fair Meals that we're really big proponent of is bringing our kids into the kitchen and cooking with us. And we've done, different webinars on it, and I've done different workshops on it. But it's a really great bonding experience also for, families dealing with, with grief. And, the grief obviously over time gets easier, but it's just also there's activities that you can look forward to doing together. So I think it's cooking can be a great way to get your kids involved in a great activity that the three of you can do. So
oh yeah,
I love that.
I feel like I've just now recently come to the capacity where I can cook with them again because it took a while.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Who knew that my 2-year-old loves cracking eggs, so we have to crack an egg every day, no matter what we're making.
That's so
and,
cute.
They really like being a part of it. I got her certain stools so she can be level with the countertop, and they have their own spoons so that they can mix. And then, they really do love being a part of it.
That's awesome.
And I feel like they eat better when they know that they had a part in making it.
Totally. They totally do. There's so much research that supports that. So it's nice to see that, it's nice to see that anecdotally as well.
Right.
So learning about heart health. So the role of cholesterol, saturated fats, risk factors, and lifestyle choices. So a little bit of an introduction, because I think it's really important to know a little bit of the science behind, what causes heart disease. So to understand heart health, it's important to first learn about cholesterol. So there used to be this belief that dietary cholesterol is what caused a rise in cholesterol. So when people would look at a nutrition label and they would see dietary cholesterol, that is what they assumed would correlate to an increase in their, LDL cholesterol, which is their bad cholesterol. So that has actually been debunked a few years back, and dietary cholesterol has actually been completely taken off of the new food labels back in, I believe, 2018 or 2016. And now it's saturated fat. That is what we're looking for when we're looking for when we're looking for, levels of cholesterol, serum cholesterol. So cholesterol defined. So cholesterol is a substance that the body needs to build cells, vitamins, and hormones. It's really, really important. When we think about hormones, we think about cholesterol. So it is important, and we do need cholesterol. There are two types. There's LDL cholesterol, which is our bad cholesterol. That's the number that we want to be lower. And then there's HDL, which is our good cholesterol, and that's the number we want to be higher. So H, higher. The problem is too much cholesterol increases the risk of cardiovascular disease. And there's a really, really big direct correlation between the two. And there's a lot of research that supports that, an increase in cholesterol and total cholesterol really does increase the risk of cardiovascular disease. So it's really important that we keep these numbers, the ratio between the LDL and the HDL, as well as our total cholesterol, at a healthy level.
And I feel like that's
yeah.
something that people don't realize, that there's good cholesterol and bad. They see cholesterol
100%.
and they assume that it's bad and to stay away from it. But you do need a certain amount and the right type.
Exactly.
Stay healthy. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about what are the types of, foods to eat to lower that LDL cholesterol, and what are the types of foods to eat to raise that HDL cholesterol. So, it's really important to know that distinction. So risk factors and lifestyle choices. So the following may increase LDL cholesterol and decrease HDL cholesterol. This increases the overall risk of heart disease. So inactivity, right? So not being physically active at all. Somebody who's completely sedentary is already at an increased risk for heart disease. And, I'm not going to say someone who has a perfect diet and they're sedentary are at greater risk, but they can be. So,
Right.
It's all of these things together that kind of, prevent this or lower our risk, I should say. Poor diet, smoking can, exponentially increase our risk of cardiovascular disease. Genetics obviously plays a role, as does everything else.
Yeah.
Diabetes, uncontrolled blood sugars can really play a role as well in cardiovascular disease, as well as obesity. So these are just general risk factors. They're pretty much risk factors for many or most of the comorbidities,
Right.
but definitely play a role in increasing our risk of heart disease.
And I feel like it's just so much easier to prevent than to try to fix, if that makes sense. Like, what if you start early enough and you start being active early enough, if you start eating healthy early enough, if you take control of your cholesterol early enough, then you won't have all these terrible things happen to you later on in life, and you can live
100%.
And so I know so many
100%.
people in their 50s and 60s and 70s that are trying to reverse time, and that's so much harder to do.
100%. And you're totally right about that. And also, that's why, we like to teach this at younger ages, right? We want to bring our kids in the kitchen and involve them in the cooking process, because the more they learn about healthy food and healthy eating, as well as, being physically active, right? We think like signing our kids up for after school gymnastics and dance and ice skating and is for fun and to keep them out of the house for longer, which part of it is.
Right.
But a lot of it is also really getting them into this routine of being physically active, because it is harder to start that later on. And
Yeah.
we see it as adults, right? If we kind of go through a rut in being physically active and working out, it's much harder to get back into things. But if we kind of have a good routine going and we kind of stick to that routine, no matter how difficult it is, some days it is so difficult to get myself to really work out, but keeping to that routine is incredibly important, because it really, really will help, lower these risks of comorbidities and in this case, heart disease.
Yeah, and I love you bringing up just like teaching our kids in the next generation how important it is. Every time I, move my body or stretch or dance,
Mhm.
or we do, whatever dance parties in the kitchen. And,
So
I
true.
talk about how it makes your body feel good and how eating makes your body feel good and you grow and it makes you stronger. And I think just relaying those messages as much as we can to them will help combat this whole thing. And
100%.
it's so important. I mean, this is just a random story, but I feel like I have to tell it
We
because
love hearing
accurate.
random stories.
I have this video, and Kinsey's like 10 and a half, 11 months old, and she's watching my husband do jump rope in the driveway, and she's not even a year old, and she's going like this.
It's so
Like
cute.
they were watching
Hmm.
what you're doing from way earlier on than you even realize, and your
Yeah,
habits and what you say and what you do and what you eat and how you move. And so it's so important to, show them the right,
100%.
healthy choices than just telling them. Because if
a
you say
hundred
eat your
percent.
vegetables and then you go and eat pizza, that's not really.
100%. And I think, like you said, like kids are sponges, right? They pick up
Yeah.
everything. They really do. And they pick up exactly. They pick up on our habits. And, it's important. I think there's a hard balance, right? Because we don't want to cause, any sort of food aversions, and we don't want to cause any sort of eating disorders, and we don't want them to use the words good food and bad foods.
Mm-hmm.
But we want them to know that there are foods that are better for us and are healthier for us, and foods that are not as healthy for us, but they all have a time and a place. And I think just kind of keeping that dialogue really positive is what's really, really going to be helpful in, in teaching them the right way, how we should do things as we, grow older.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
So more on poor diet. So contrary to popular belief, eating cholesterol, as I mentioned before, containing food does not increase cholesterol levels, but instead foods high in cholesterol also tend to be high in saturated fat. And this is what is believed to increase our LDL, or our bad cholesterol.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some long-term consequences? So maintaining one or more of these habits increases your risk for the following. So atherosclerosis, coronary heart disease, stroke, heart attack, and heart failure. So these are, pretty serious. These are pretty serious illnesses. These are pretty serious diseases, and they're no joke. And you know, keeping good habits can really, really help prevent these, because these are definitely consequences that we see long term. So heart healthy nutrition. So what do we want to do? We want to focus on fiber. We want to focus on healthy fats. We want to focus on antioxidants and making balanced choices. So the key here is making balanced choices, right? And balancing means that there's both, let's, for lack of a better word, we'll use the good and the bad, right? We want to balance the two of them. And that's really important during the holidays, right? Because there are a ton of indulgences that may be, not something that we eat normally every day or every week, but during the holidays, we should be able to enjoy them. We definitely need to know and understand that there is a time and place for these, and making balanced choices is definitely a good practice. So
I
what does
like that you, sorry, I'm
yeah,
going to interrupt one
no, please.
just for a second. I like that you say balancing it and not restricting yourself, because I remember like college me would come home from the holidays with like such anxiety about, oh, I'm going to gain weight over the holidays and I can't eat this and I can't eat that. And I was so stressing about every meal, when it's like you can have both. You just need to make sure that there's a balance and that you stay
100%.
active and that you're, just being conscious of it. And if you restrict yourself too much, it's almost like it goes in reverse effect. And
100%.
I think it took me a while to figure that out, like until maybe my late 20s, of the freedom of food, of
Hmm.
I'm just gonna eat what makes me feel good. But that takes a long time to learn. And it's good to have, this somebody tell you like these are some good recipes to eat that are healthy, that are still good, that are still holiday themed and all that. So
For sure, 100%. And I think you said it right. I know, I sometimes on the side I work with, I work with like teenagers, and
yeah.
a lot of the times they worry about, eating on the weekends and holidays, and like it's such a worry for them. And I think if you just allow yourself to have a healthy relationship with food, and it's easier said than done, but
Mhm.
if you really kind of just train yourself to have this healthy relationship with food, and you don't tell yourself there's restricted foods, then ultimately you just will make better choices most of the time, and you will end up enjoying these indulgences when they're there, and you won't feel bad or guilty about it, and that's the goal.
Right.
So what does healthy mean to you? So I'm going to ask you this question, and if anybody wants to write in the chat, they're free to. What does
Yes.
healthy mean to you?
Oh gosh, I feel like especially after what I've gone through this year, I have a totally different meaning of what healthy means. But I think it just means feeling good mentally and physically, um,
Hmm.
and emotionally, and in all the ways, because just because you maybe ate good that day and you're having a mentally bad day, does that mean you're super healthy? I don't know. Or the opposite. And so I kind of feel like healthy has a different meaning in terms of the full person now,
Hmm.
because having a healthy relationship with food, having a healthy relationship with, your family and yourself, and it's not just nutrition anymore.
100%.
That's a big part of it. And it took me a long time to figure that out. And then, the other things kind of fell into place after that. But it definitely is more than just a meal,
A
which is
hundred
like
percent.
so not what I would have said like a year or two ago.
Yeah.
So I do feel like it's so important to be healthy as the whole person, which is again
100%.
easier said than done, takes a lot of work. We're working on it every day, as
Mhm.
everyone is, but it's I'm sure everyone has a different, you know, definition of what they think healthy is. But that's kind of where I'm at right now in my life
I
space.
I love that answer. I think that's such a perfect answer. And I think that just shows you that, like, life experiences can change our definition for everything.
Mm,
But I would say that that's like a perfect answer, because it's true. I think the word healthy has evolved, um, to not only pertain to nutrition, but also like, psychologically, emotionally, physically, right? There's so many
right,
parts of us that can be healthy, and it doesn't just pertain to like eating a healthy diet. So I
right.
think that's a really great answer, and thank you for sharing that. So heart healthy nutrition, so we have the focus are omega-3 fatty acids, soluble and insoluble fiber, and antioxidants, and these are only some examples, and so many of them can overlap. We'll see so many different foods also that do overlap. So let's break down fiber, right? Because this can get a little bit complicated sometimes. And hold on one second. I think I'm not sure if a question or an answer just came into the chat box, but if you want to check.
She said, the word healthy has lost its meaning, and I commend you both for stating the fact of balance and feeling good about oneself in the terms of being healthy, which thank you. I feel like it's a big topic that we could talk about that later, but
totally.
I feel like it's so much more than just nutrition, but
agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. So yeah, thank you for that comment. So soluble fiber versus insoluble fiber. So soluble fiber is found primarily in nuts, seeds, and legumes. So this slows digestion down and keeps us feeling full. And it also aids in gut and heart health, right? So when we are having a snack, for example, or a meal, we want to try to have these soluble, we want to make sure we are getting soluble fiber because that's what's going to help keep us fuller for longer, prevent us from snacking on foods that we may not necessarily want or need. And also, it's important in gut and also in heart health. Insoluble fiber, this is found primarily in vegetables and whole grains. So this speeds up digestion, it promotes digestive regularity, and it adds bulk to our stool, right? So it kind of bulks it up a bit so that it's not just full of water. So these are just generally the difference between soluble and insoluble fiber. We obviously want to get both, but in these specific, when we're talking about, heart health, we want, the soluble fiber. That's really what's going to help lower our cholesterol a bit. And insoluble fiber, for example, when, we have sometimes like an upset stomach, right? We want to add more bulk to our stool so that, that's helpful in that case. So heart healthy benefits of fiber. So as we mentioned, it lowers LDL cholesterol, it lowers blood pressure, it balances blood sugars, and it promotes a healthy weight, right? So there's a lot of really good benefits here.
I feel like I've known a lot about heart health. I grew up with, my mom was like a nurse and a nutritionist, and I grew up with all this stuff. And I've never really thought about fiber being a part of heart health for some reason. I've thought about it being like digestive health.
Yes.
But never like the two being so connected.
So there's a huge correlation between fiber and, cholesterol. Let's say those are like, in my head, like that. When I think about fiber, I think about cholesterol and lowering LDL cholesterol. And probably because I've been trained in school to feel that way, to think that way. Right. But that's what I'm here is to like really teach people and to let people know that there's, a huge correlation between the two, and they are very much connected.
Yeah, I really did not know that. I need to up my fiber game now.
That's what we're here to do. So fats can also be heart healthy, right? So I think fat also is one of these nutrients that gets a lot of bad rep. But actually, there are heart healthy fats, right? So the omega-3 fatty acids in particular, they've shown to decrease LDL cholesterol, but more importantly and more commonly, they'll increase HDL cholesterol. So you can find them in things like fatty fish, so tuna, salmon, mackerel, cod. Sometimes people take the fish oil for the omega-3 fatty acids. We can find them in like chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds, even sesame seeds have, and some nuts like almonds, pistachios, walnuts. So for people who are very, very picky eaters, I would never really recommend supplementation unless somebody needs. For people who are really, really picky eaters and find they really don't eat fish, maybe they'll get a little bit of chia seeds or flax seeds, not really eating so many nuts. That's when I would say to speak to their, to their providers about taking an omega-3 supplement. But a lot of people just go to the store and take an omega-3 supplement because they think they need to. But if you feel like you are regularly getting these foods in your diet, there's really no need to take an omega-3 supplement. There's really no need at all. Obviously, also, if you take, somebody goes and gets their bloods done and they see their HDL cholesterol is pretty low and they want it to be higher, and they feel they really don't eat these types of foods, that's also another, indication to maybe speak to their doctor about, possibly taking supplementation. But there's no need to be on supplementation right away. A lot of people are like, oh, I take omega-3. I'm like, oh, is there a reason you take omega-3? No, I mean, it's healthy. Yes, it's healthy, but these foods we're getting them in
Way
these
better.
foods. And like food is medicine, right? Food is,
Right.
if we can get it in these foods, then why should we, go to supplementation? Supplementation is not FDA approved. So some of them actually can be like essentially a placebo pill. I hate to like scare
I feel
people,
like that's brand new information.
but some of it can really be like, I don't even know if it's like, actually a placebo pill and that it's a sugar pill, but they may not actually be doing much at all in changing these levels. They're not FDA regulated at all.
Yeah.
So, a lot of times, even if somebody does speak to their doctor, I'd always say, ask your doctor which one they recommend, right? Which
Right.
supplement they recommend, if there's any brands that they recommend, because again, they're not FDA regulated.
Right. So to me, this kind of sounds Mediterranean diet like.
Mhm.
Is that
Totally.
I
Mediterranean diet is
okay?
very, very rich in omega-3s and healthy
Okay.
fats in general, like olive oil, olive oils, a lot of fish, lean proteins. That's, the Mediterranean really, really focuses a lot on healthy fats,
That's what I feel like
whole fat
whenever I think of
dairy.
heart healthy and healthy fats, I think of Mediterranean diet.
A
Um,
100%, a hundred
yeah.
percent.
Okay.
Yeah, and actually, I just mentioned this. I don't know if you guys heard, but whole fat dairy also. Whole fat dairy is another thing that has gotten so much bad press, but there is so much current research now that whole fat dairy is the way to go for everybody. Unless you're really someone who is on a very, very strict diet because they need to lose weight, most people should be eating, consuming whole fat dairy. It's healthy fat. It's really good for us. And there's no reason not to be having that.
That's
So
great to know because that is what my kids drink. And so I just pour the same thing in my cereal
same,
and my
same,
coffee.
same. I do too. And it's really the way to go. And I am guilty of not really, doing that before, reading a lot up on the research, but
Yeah,
really there is just so much current research that's just so you know, pro whole milk dairy. So
that's
definitely
great
the
to
way
know.
to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. So heart healthy antioxidants. So antioxidants, these are known to decrease inflammation, right? They're very like anti-inflammatory and lower LDL cholesterol. And you can find them in dark chocolate, cooked tomatoes, green tea, and berries. So in dark chocolate, in all of in all of these food sources, there are different types of antioxidants. So in dark chocolate, we have things called flavonoids. In cooked tomatoes, we have things called lycopene, and lycopene is something like very synonymous with lowering the risk of prostate cancer in men. You'll see that a lot. There's a lot of research kind of again promoting lycopene in preventing, prostate cancer in men. Green tea is the polyphenols, and berries is anthocyanins. Anthocyanins and anthocyanins are pretty much anything that's like that deep berry color, right? So like blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, cranberries, all of that have those anthocyanins.
And these are all delicious foods. Like I feel,
Exactly.
it's not like you're depriving yourself of anything. These are all things that people want to eat anyway.
Agreed. Totally agreed. It's like people get pretty shocked by this list, but they're good
Yeah.
and they're good foods for us. So making balanced choices. So ditch the all or nothing mentality. Practicing the following can help. So filling half of your plate with vegetables, choosing lean proteins like chicken or turkey or fish, Drinking alcohol in moderation, incorporating lower sugar desserts, having seconds if you're still hungry, and eating a balanced breakfast to start the day. So I think that's really important, that last point, because I want to talk about that. I think a
Mhm.
lot of people go into these holidays, right? Like into Thanksgiving, like, "Ah, I'm going to have such a large dinner later, so I'm just not going to eat breakfast." And that's really not the way to go, because first of all, breakfast does help kickstart our metabolism. But also, if we go into our Thanksgiving meal starving, we're going to overeat, and we're going to overeat the wrong things, because that
Right.
is what our body is going to naturally crave.
Yep.
And we're going to end up just not eating the proper foods.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
we want to eat a balanced breakfast. We want to have a snack, until we get to that meal as well. And it's going to be a super, super important point.
I remember my brother saying one Thanksgiving, he was like, I don't know why everybody's so excited about this meal. It's just another meal because I eat until I'm full. And I was like, well, I think a lot of people don't do that.
A
He's like,
hundred
every
percent.
meal I just eat until I'm full and then I stop. And I was like, well, I think the problem is a lot of people overeat at
A
Thanksgiving
hundred
and
percent.
then they have the guilt. And so he was
Yes.
just, it was one of those
Well,
things.
it's good. He like understands his hunger cues, which unfortunately most people can't do yet.
Yeah.
But that's, good for him, that he understands when he's full, because a lot of people don't understand that, and they end up overeating, and they eat until they feel sick. And that's definitely not a point we want to get to.
Right.
Okay, some other healthy habits. So the holidays can be a stressful time. Practicing the following can help. So this is where we get into these hunger and fullness cues. So we want to listen to our hunger and fullness cues. So we don't want to just stuff our face and then get to a point of feeling sick. We want to eat slowly, right? We're around our family. There's no rush. There's literally nothing open on Thanksgiving. So there's nowhere we need to rush to, unless you want to get your kids home to bed, which in that case, I understand. But all jokes aside, we should really know when we feel full, and we should think to ourselves, I just finished my plate. Do I feel full? And if you feel full, that's it. We don't need to get to a point of feeling stuffed. We just want to feel that we're not hungry anymore. And I know there's so much delicious food, and there's food, and we just get excited and all we want to do is eat. But I think that it's important to train ourselves to understand when we're feeling hungry and when we're feeling full, and not feeling overstuffed. So saying yes
And
to
it'll be there
foods, yes,
tomorrow for leftovers.
100%. Leftovers are delicious.
They're even
And
better.
yes, a lot of the times they're even better. So 100%, I agree with you. So saying yes to foods you love. So I totally agree with this, right? It's all about the balance, right? We don't want the all or nothing. But if there's, people love those like sweet potatoes with the marshmallows on top, and like you're not eating that all year, right? So it's like, if you love that, go for that on Thanksgiving. I'm not saying you need to have a whole plate load of it, but put some on your plate, enjoy it. Saying
Right.
no when you don't want something, right? We shouldn't feel forced into, like, if you're not hungry and you don't want dessert and someone's like, oh, come on, here, take dessert, it's delicious. If you want to have it, by all means. But if you just really feel like you don't feel pressured into having something. Enjoying the company around you. That's obviously, an
That's the
obvious
whole
thing.
point.
Exactly.
It's not, I think we think
100%.
it's all about the food and it's really not. But so we have to change our mindset that Thanksgiving's really all about the company and not necessarily.
100%. It really is. It's really about the company. Chewing slowly and breathing between bites. This will help us, listen to our hunger and fullness cues when we do chew slowly and we don't stuff our face. And not commenting on other people's eating habits. And this is a really important one. And I mentioned this also in our last webinar when we
Mhm.
spoke about, Halloween and having our kids, letting our kids eat candy, and, or not eat candy for that matter. But the same thing of like, we don't want to make a comment of like, oh, you went up for seconds, or, oh, like that's a lot of, cake on your plate. Those things cause unhealthy relationships. with food
Yeah.
for people. And we never know what's going on inside of someone's head. We don't know what someone's struggling with. And making comments about their eating habits can be extremely detrimental to them in ways that you will never understand. So it's extremely important to just not make those comments. Don't even think it. Nobody should be thinking that. Really, and sometimes we just can't control our thoughts, but like in this case, just try to control your thoughts.
Yeah, that's a really, really good tip because I feel like, especially around family, people don't have a filter and
And some
need to
alcohol
spread the word
flowing.
on that.
Yes, exactly. So I think like I'm very serious about that tip because it's very difficult for me to hear, people make comments to other people about what they're eating, what they're not eating,
Because you never know.
because you just don't know what somebody is dealing with. And
Yeah.
everybody has their own struggles. And a lot of people's struggles revolve around food. So
Yeah.
just, keep it to yourself.
Yep. 100%.
So now for my favorite part are the healthier holiday recipes. So I always like to end my webinars with recipes because I think they're just fun ways to kind of like get people, give people ideas, even if they're not going to follow these recipes, exactly, but just giving them some ideas. So festive favorites made with nutrient dense and affordable ingredients. So a crustless pumpkin pie. So I think like Thanksgiving screams pumpkin pie, right? So we're essentially making a pumpkin pie, but without the crust. And again, if you love the crust and you want the crust, by all means, this is just a way to make it a little bit healthier.
Oh, I love
So what are
that.
the health benefits? So eggs are a great source of healthy fats and a complete protein. Pumpkin is rich in soluble and insoluble fiber. And it also does have, pumpkin is filled with like beta carotene, which is also an antioxidant. Honey is a natural sweetener, contains also antioxidants. I don't want people to think that honey is not going to be processed as sugar because it will be. It's just not as processed as sugar. So, that's why people say like, oh, honey is a healthier sweetener option. It's more natural in that it's not as processed, but it still will be broken down in our bodies and digested as sugar. So just keep that in mind. And cinnamon is an anti-inflammatory spice that supports blood sugar as well.
And I feel like that is
preventing the fluctuations. Yeah.
That's just such a fun recipe to make with your kids too. If you're bringing
100%.
or your family, that it's so easy for them to help with. Crack an egg, mix this up.
100%. My son actually takes cooking in school. And they made a pumpkin pie or a pumpkin loaf, I guess, 2 weeks ago. And he like was so excited when he came home and he was so excited for us to try it. And I think just like pumpkin, like anything pumpkin is just like exciting and using eggs, like you mentioned, like these are just like exciting things for kids
it really is.
To do and to make.
Yeah, when I taught second grade, we would always make pumpkin seeds and pumpkin bread around Halloween. Yeah. And I mean, you would think that they had never cooked a day in their life and like who knows if they had or not, but it was just so fun to them. And whether they liked it at the end or not, they all ended up trying it because they had
100%.
And it's just one of those bonding moments too, regardless if it turns out good or not.
I totally agree. So it is a lot of fun, but I do agree. This is a great recipe to kind of involve your kids in. And a healthier hot chocolate. So nothing too crazy, nothing too, out of the ordinary, but here it says to use a plant-based milk. I will definitely say to use a whole fat milk instead, but you're welcome to use the plant-based milk if you want. Using some of the unsweetened cocoa powder, maple syrup as our sweetener, a little bit of vanilla extract that gives it a really nice taste, and a little bit of salt. This kind of like evens out the flavors a bit and makes it a little bit, not the syrup definitely gives it a bit of a sweet taste, and the salt kind of tames that down a bit.
Yeah, so I would never think to use maple syrup and
it's good. It's good. It doesn't taste like the Swiss Miss packaged hot chocolate, but it definitely is a good option. So the health benefit is it lowers this version of hot chocolate chocolate's lower in sugar and sodium than alternatives from the store, and that is definitely true. Maple syrup, as we mentioned, is a natural sweetener. It contains antioxidants. Plant-based is just a great option. It's dairy-free. It can, it is naturally lower in calories. But again, those are the healthy fats are in that whole fat milk. So I'm okay with that. And cocoa powder also contains antioxidants, those flavonoids that we mentioned before. And that is really all that I have. We definitely finished a little bit earlier, but I wanted to keep it, light and fun for the holidays. And if anyone has any questions, I don't know if we have, nobody seemed to have questions going. I think things were pretty self-explanatory, but we're definitely here for questions if anyone has.
Yeah, anyone go ahead and start typing if you have anything. I mean, I feel like I grew up knowing kind of a lot about nutrition and health, and I still learned so much just from this. So I feel like I need to up my fiber. I feel like I need to drink more whole milk, all the things.
I'm so happy. That's what it's about, right? It's also for us both to learn. So I'm really happy.
Teaching the next generation is so important because that's what it's all about. And so especially around the
100%.
holidays when you're together and you actually have the time and you actually, they're home from school, so you have all day to cook. You might as well, include them in what you're doing instead of putting them in front of the TV or whatever it may
100%.
be. Let's have a dance party and cook a pie.
100%. And sometimes it's like we don't want to make our kitchen messy, but it's really worth it in the end. It's worth it for the memories. It's worth it for them to have fun. And I'm all about that.
And
my husband,
my parents.
My son helps me like make dinner all the time also. So even if it's just like making dinner, add something to your dinner that's maybe a little bit more fun for them to make, and it's awesome and they love it.
Yeah. And it's just, when they're at school all day, it's you don't have much time with them at night anyway. So I feel like it's one more thing to bond with them over regardless.
For sure. I totally agree with that. And I miss him when my younger one's still home, but I miss my older one when he's at school. So I'm always looking for bonding experiences with him.
Yeah.
But anyways, it doesn't seem like we have questions. So thank you all for joining us. Julie, thank you so much for joining us and for all of your tidbits and your commentary. And yeah, thank you everybody and happy holidays.
Thank you all. Happy holidays. Have a great time with your families.
Enjoy.
Bye everyone.
Bye.